Alright guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be rounding out the Terrifier and All Hallows Eve movies with a review of All Hallows Eve 2. So this is a movie that I kind of avoided. I never really had any interest in it, mainly because it had no Art the Clown. It's not from the same creative team as the original. No Damien Leone directing, and it just kind of seemed like a cheap Black Sheep sequel that really had no business being a part of this franchise. Now, unfortunately, my concerns were affirmed when I watched this movie, and it really kind of is that. And right off the bat, I'd say my first gripe with this movie is the fact that it really has no business being an All Hallows Eve sequel. It has nothing to do, again, with the first movie. It does nothing to do with Art the Clown or any of the mythology or anything. It really just feels like a bunch of random short horror films that were kind of just put together with this through line of this jack-o'-lantern killer, which is barely even a part of the movie, if you can believe it, and that just really cheapens it. Part of what adds the effect to that is that with All Hallows Eve, there was one creative voice. It was solely directed by Damien Leone, but in this movie, there's about 10 directors, I think, and all of the different skits or, horror shorts or whatever, they all feel completely different, and they almost feel like they were filmed completely independently with no intention of really putting them together. Then they just kind of got stitched together. They kind of copied the premise of the original of a killer dropping off a VHS tape. This woman watches it and then experiences these weird and bizarre stories, except none of them have anything to do with each other. None of them have to do with the through line of the story of this jack-o'-lantern killer. The only thing that you see is that when one horror short ends, the TV just kind of blips out for a second, and then you see his face for like half a second, and then it just goes to the next one. Whereas Art the Clown was like appearing at the end, or like he was clearly connected to all these weird events. He had an actual place in the story, but what happens is the killer drops off the tape, she watches these things, and then after she watches the last one, spoiler alert, he just cuts her throat. There's no chase, there's nothing. It's not like with Art the Clown where you get this steady setup. He's not established. He just is a guy in a pumpkin mask who just shows up, does that, kills her. That's it. That's all there is to it. He just appears like a guy in a mask. He doesn't have any personality. There's nothing that stands out about him. His design's not particularly interesting, and he just doesn't measure up. They copied the template of the first one, did it much more poorly, really didn't take advantage of it at all, and then just, that's about it. And when I say that these horror shorts don't really have much to do with each other, I mean that they're really not relevant to each other. I think that it's just a bunch of different filmmakers made horror shorts, and they thought, we could stitch these together in some anthology way and create a movie with it. As far as I'm concerned, this could have been Tales of Halloween 2, this could have been XX2, this could have been fucking VHS 6 for all I care. I don't know, it had no business being a sequel. It really is this black sheep. And that's not to say that some of these stories aren't good. There are a few that I enjoyed. I'd say there's probably like a 50-50 split, maybe a little less than 50-50, but it's just there's such a variance in quality and in just like tone in general. They feel so mismatched when they put them all together. There's some with some interesting ideas. There's one with a mother and her son where the mother is the wife of a dead veteran, and it kind of gives you this Babadook almost feel with this kid seeing this monster, and they have interesting setup, but then as soon as anything interesting really starts to happen and the kid makes a breakthrough with his mom, literally at the end of the short, the monster just pulls her under the bed and that's it. And that goes to my other issue with a lot of these. A lot of them are unexplained, they don't make sense, and they're just kind of random. Some of them are cool, they showcase interesting effects, they're interesting ideas, but the problem is they either don't set up the payoff or the payoff doesn't make sense. And that's just, I don't know. This movie's a mess. It really is. I don't think that these shorts were filmed with All Hallows Eve 2 being in mind. They really retroactively converted this into it by filming 5 minutes of this pumpkin face guy dropping off this tape and this woman drinking wine and watching it, and then be like, oh, at the end of every one, his face splices in for a second in between the different shorts. And after she's done, it's honestly, it's probably not even 30 seconds. She's like, oh, she's covering her mouth, she's scared. He shows up behind her and just cuts her neck open with a knife. That's that. really, it's hard to even judge this movie because I can't help but see it in the context of All Hallows Eve 2. Another thing I forgot to mention, they straight up copy a scene and do it much more poorly. So there's this scene in All Hallows Eve where Art is looking through the TV and he's pressing up against the glass, and they do that again here with the jack-o'-lantern guy, but it doesn't look like he's pressing up against the TV. It looks like he's just a guy in a mask going like it's done terribly poorly. It doesn't even look like he's touching the screen. He was just so obviously filmed somewhere else, mimicking someone tapping against the glass. It's just such a poor man's sequel. It really is. I don't know what happened here. It was just, I think that they saw that All Hallows Eve kind of had a cult following, and then they just kind of wanted to capitalize on it. And that's all that I can really give it, is that it's just a cheap knockoff. Some of the acting is weird. There's one of the short stories or short films that is completely in Spanish. Granted, I think that that's the best one in the whole movie, but this is an American movie with English the whole entire time, so it's just so completely jarring to see one of them be in Spanish and with subtitles the entire time. I think that just proves my theory even more that they never planned this to be All Hallows Eve 2. So overall, if you feel inclined to watch it because you're a fan of Art the Clown or Damien Leone or even All Hallows Eve 1, I wouldn't feel compelled to watch this, all right? This was a first-time watch for me, regardless of the fact that I'm a fan, and I really don't think you're going to get anything out of this. All right, I hope you enjoyed my review for All Hallows Eve 2. I will be ranking this among All Hallows Eve, Terrifier, and Terrifier 2 soon enough, so keep posted for that. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Talk to you soon.